What is happening, AJ Game Dude here? And Sony's God of War studio is working on a new IP. So we're going to the Santa Monica studio, and Santa Monica studio holds a very special place for Sony because it's done so much work on various projects, and more often than not you'll see the Santa Monica logo on many games you would not have expected to see their logo on, and that's specifically because they help either publish or develop smaller titles, not just within the Sony ecosystem, but for like smaller third parties like that game company and small companies like that aren't actually owned by Sony, but served as like a way of being able to be published by Sony, or rather by Santa Monica Studios. Sorry, by Sony through Santa Monica Studio, I should say. Yep, there we go. Cool. So worth sort of mentioning, but it was actually mentioned that God of War was only going to be a duology, like this remake. So 2018, God of War 2018 and God of War Ragnarok was just going to be a duology, and that was it. They were not going to be working on a third God of War, at least not yet. Maybe later on down the line, but that's not completely outside the realm of possibility. So we've always known whatever they were going to make next would either be an existing IP or a new IP, and sure enough, we have possibly a new IP on it. So I would be interested to see, like, what that IP is, what genre it falls under. I just hope that's not, third person action game like it kind of has been with Sony for quite some time. But I personally have not played 2018 or Ragnarok, even though I have both games. I just have not been interested in playing Sony first party titles after the release of Horizon Zero Dawn. So since then I've just not been interested, and I haven't even played Horizon, so maybe that might be something worth trying later on, because it feels like people are like pumping it up, or rather game reviewers and things like that are pumping it up way too much, and so when I play it I'll just feel disappointed because it's not as great as people make it out to be. But maybe that's just me. So moving on from that, so according to the LinkedIn profile of Gloko Longi, who joined Sony Studio earlier this year to oversee character development on the unannounced project. Longi first worked for Sony as a senior character artist on Uncharted 4 at Naughty Dog before taking on the same role at Santa Monica Studios' God of War reboot in 2016. So this guy has been the catalyst for all of this. And so he rejoined Santa Monica Studio in April this year. And Longi has spent 10 months as the art director at Subnautica developer. Okay, so this is kind of like his full resume, this Gloko Longi guy. So the idea is Santa Monica Studios presented the opportunity of coming back as character supervisor, looking after the entire character development pipeline on their new IP. So here I am. I am thrilled to be back working again with the crew and pushing characters in various video games together, reads Longi's LinkedIn profile via Reset Era. Okay, so basically the idea is that, hey, they're working on a new IP, so it's not something that's currently existing, that's new, but also the fact that this all was sourced from Longi's LinkedIn profile that was reported via Reset Era, which is also quite interesting to know. Yeah, and also down here it kind of does mention, developing PlayStation's flagship franchises. They've also been known as a business incubator and publisher for indie games studios like That Game Company, Eat Pray Sleep for Twisted Metal, Giant Sparrow for Unfinished Swan, Ready at Dawn, Order 1886, and Q Games for Pixel Junk, which, if you've been around the block with PlayStation, Pixel Junk is I wouldn't say it's a huge franchise. It's a indie franchise that has multiple different genres of games within the singular franchise. You could be playing a platformer, you could be playing a racer, you could be playing any number of different types of games. They have twin stick shooters. They have a few different bits and pieces here and there. They even have a soup making simulator in the form of Pixel Junk Nom Nom Galaxy. But I digress. So yeah, this is actually quite fascinating because while I say I want the new IP to not be a third-person action game, and that's because I've kind of moved away from that due to how PlayStation has been handling their first-party output. Yeah, it's been like really good, or supposedly, again, I haven't really played a lot of their first party games that have released after 2017, and I can't remember if Days Gone was 2016 or 2017, but that I guess the progenitor to me not playing Sony exclusives anymore was actually, I think, Days Gone. And then since then I haven't picked up the controller to play any of these other Sony first party games, except I want to say it was Last of Us Part 2. But of course we all know how that went, and I personally didn't like Last of Us Part 2 all that much, and in fact should have probably ended a lot sooner. But yeah, I digress. So let me know what you guys think about what this game could possibly be. What genre do you think it's going to fall under? Because I feel like whenever new IP is involved, that's where we can get most creative with half the guesses that we make, because we could be in a viable place, because it has equal parts of it being the very thing that we're guessing, but equal parts not quite what we're guessing. It's kind of like Schrodinger's game in a way, except that it doesn't involve cat and poison or anything along those lines. Because until something isn't necessarily confirmed, we could probably just keep guessing on what it could be. And honestly, if I were to take a stab in the dark on what I personally would want from a Sony first party studio like Santa Monica Studios, I would either want another 3D platformer franchise similar to that of Astrobot, because I feel like Astrobot alone isn't going to be enough, and on top of that, it takes a long time to make games. So the fact of the matter is that I feel like they need to bring more 3D platformers into the light. But I feel like if it's not Asobi Studios, then it might not land as positively. Whereas when the Astrobot trailer came out, that was huge. Everyone was popping off for it. I was excited. I was jumping up and down on my seat. I was very happy, very excited, and very much looking forward to seeing what this is, where this is gonna go, and everything else in between. The other option is possibly a single player first person shooter, not a multiplayer first person shooter, a first person shooter game specifically for single player, specifically built around single player, and that to me would be quite nice. Similar to that of a Necromunda Hired Gun, which is another single player first person shooter, or it could be closer to a boomer shooter with Proteus. So Prodeus, Prodeus, which is a boomer shooter made I think a few years ago, but it's an indie title though. So while say something like Proteus is an indie game, and so is Necromunda Hired Gun, if they had a smaller scale first person shooter that takes maybe 7 to 10 hours to beat and was sold at $30 to $40 and was a first party Sony IP that they could build off of, that would be great. If they they did say it was a new IP, so I was gonna say SOCOM, but that's not gonna happen. Let's be honest with ourselves here. Sony is never gonna go back to SOCOM as much as we'd like. But yeah, just a first party first person shooter that is specifically single player, or a 3D platformer pretty much similar to Astrobot, if not maybe a side-scrolling platformer. I don't really care about what kind of platformer it is, as long as it is a platformer, though I hope that more than anything else, it's going to be a 3D platform. But that's kind of what I want. Let me know what you guys want in the comments below. Like the video if you liked it, subscribe to the channel. I've got my own Patreon, so if you want to throw a few bucks my way and you think that I deserve it, feel free to do that in the description below. I have a link. And with all that said and done, I do upload every day, so I'll see you guys tomorrow.